There we are. And we are live. It is 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So lunchtime letdown edition for NasCanucks. Unless you're on the West Coast, then it's breakfast television.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
And the title of the show, you will know coming up a little later on why we've called it the Lunch Bag Letdown.
Yes.
But if you know us, you should already know.
That's right. Yes. Welcome to NasCanucks Live, presented by Vibraprint. We're your hosts, Ben and cousin Doug, and we are talking Kansas.
But I think before Kansas, we kind of just talked about a bit before offhand. There's Dale Jr. breaking news this morning.
Let's go out there.
The mainstream media picked up on it. He was on the morning drive this morning with Pete and Mike Bagley.
Okay.
And he dropped some news that he's actually going to be in the booth for the Martinsville Xfinity race coming up in a couple weeks here.
Right, because he doesn't always do the Xfinity races.
No, and he's doing that race for a reason. That reason is he will be in the 90% kind of percentile of what's going to happen. He will be running the Martinsville Xfinity race next year.
Now, where have I heard this before? Driver retires, but he's still allowed to run the shortest track on the circuit. Oh, Dale's turning into DW.
But that's like the race that he seems to be picking for his one race next year. So looks like Dale Jr. will be driving the 2021 Xfinity race at Martinsville.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's our Dale, like right off the top, Dale Jr. breaking news. Now there was a couple other breaking news this morning as well, but that's the big Dale Jr. news.
Awesome. Martinsville. Well, yeah, Martinsville. What? Xfinity's going back to Martinsville for the first time. I think they said 7 years. They said during the weekend. Because I do remember they were gone and then they came back. And I hate that when a track will bring in a series once and they're like, "Oh, it didn't work."
Yeah,
give it a chance.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Kansas City, we had 4 races there. Well, I shouldn't say Kansas City, Kansas Speedway.
Yeah.
4 races, starting with the ARCA race on Friday night.
Yeah.
Where they set the series champion. The car owners championship was pretty much sewed up like in July or something.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see the ARCA race because apparently I was supposed to watch something else instead. Yeah,
I didn't get to see it either. But we do have an ARCA champion, Brett Holmes. Name I haven't really. I guess he must have done well all year. I just haven't heard the name. There's other big names in that you've always been hearing in that series, being either Ty Gibbs, Riley Herbst. I know Michael Self runs there. Haley Deegan gets a lot.
I was going to say the girl there.
Haley Deegan gets a lot of press for that there. So
too much press.
Congrats to Brett Holmes for winning the ARCA championship for 2020.
Yeah. I'm just going to say it now because I said it last week. Haley Deegan is getting entirely too much press based off her race results. We had to listen to 2 minutes of the truck race broadcast on her pitting under green for the first time in her life.
And almost running out of gas.
And then one brief little thing, she leaves pit road, everyone else gasses up, and she's coasting around, and they're like, I wonder why she's doing that. They quickly go to commercial, they come back, they don't say squat about it.
Yeah.
But, and then finishes, 15th or 20th, and still gets a post-race interview.
She's 16th.
Yeah, and gets a post-race interview.
And meanwhile, Jennifer Jo Cobb saying, hey, I'm over here, I've been here for a while.
Yeah.
The guy with the MH initials keeps stealing my trucks, but I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, speaking of the truck race, that was a good race. Definitely. That was Saturday afternoon. And similar to the Xfinity race, we're seeing a lot of momentum by certain drivers week to week because Sheldon Creed won, I think, both stages.
He won both stages. Yeah, I had to watch the race I had to watch this race and the Xfinity race on recap because somebody forgot to push the record button while he was away all day on Saturday. So
yes,
but yeah, so Sheldon Creed did win both stages. Yeah, it seemed like it'd be just like a normal kind of truck race.
Yeah, nothing stood out per se. I thought it was rather funny how, again, and I'm not saying it's a xenophobic thing, but when Stuart Friesen runs top 10 every week in the 52 truck, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Timothy Peters is running 18th, and they think it's the second coming of a superstar.
Yeah.
Like, give it a rest, folks. And although I did like the fact that they were mentioning, yes, Friesen was gone, and he was, as suspected, running a dirt modified in Port Royal, because guess what? First prize of that race, I think, paid more than the truck race.
Yeah. But even for Timothy Peters, I'm not sure if it's a second coming because he's kind of been there a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
He's been a part-timer since he's been a full-timer.
Yeah.
So, who won the truck race? Was it Creed that won the truck race?
No, it wasn't. So there was that deal near the end as well, too, where
did you think, since I just watched it yesterday, I remember
Zane Smith was in the lead.
Right.
He said Moffitt passed him. Zane Smith then went to do the crossover down low. And, Moffitt came down on him. Moffitt apologized later on. Came down, and Zane lost control. And I'm going to say a pretty good save. He still needed new tires afterwards, but he didn't put it in the wall or in the grass. He kept it on the asphalt. And then Brett Moffitt went on to win. And Zane Smith, for a young guy, he was like, I think I'm just not going to get in trouble and just not say anything after the race.
Right. Yeah. And, congrats to Moffitt. He's been there, quite a bit, consistent. I've been following him for a number of years now because I think he ran ARCA for 3 to 5 years.
Well, and he is a past champion.
Exactly.
He ran for Hattori Racing when Hattori was doing their. We're going to have a driver each year because they had Truex for a year, Moffitt for a year, wins the championship. Then I believe they went on to Tyler Ankrum right after that. Right. And they've kind of stayed with Ankrum. But yeah.
So that that's good to see. And we noticed, because they're running the truck race and the Xfinity right back to back, we had a couple drivers doing double duty, driving 500 miles in a day, which is it just. From the driver's standpoint, I think those guys, they're young, they're in shape, they can handle it. The interesting thing was crew chiefs doing double duty, where you're doing 2 setups and calling 2 different race strategies. And what works on one car doesn't necessarily work on another. So, getting into the Xfinity race, again, much like the truck race, kind of a typical Xfinity race.
Yeah. I'm trying to even remember. Okay, I'm trying to remember each stage, but now I do remember what the stage was.
There was, early in the race, which put a smile on my face, was the 22 and the 9 getting together quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to say you may have had a smile on your face. I think Chase Briscoe may have had a load in his pants on that deal.
Because he was right behind it.
He was only about 6 feet from it, he may have had the load in the pants, but he may have had the smile on his face too, seeing those 2 guys take each other out. Yeah. Being Gregson and Cindric his 2 main competition.
Right. 2 main competition, and it couldn't have happened to 2 nicer guys.
And I'm going to say that, knowing the way both of those guys are, I think they're going to be focused on each other.
Yep.
Next 2 races.
That's right.
Gregson especially.
Well, the way I saw it too, like if you'd seen the 2 cars got together multiple times, and both of those drivers, seems to me, you nudge either one of them, they're going to nail you back. Like, oh, you rub me, I'm taking you out. And that's what it seemed like. As soon as they touched once, it went, oh, it's on. And they just started driving into each other.
And then the guys in the booth for the last hit, but they weren't sure, but it looked like they didn't touch when they did spin.
Right.
So, but so it's, they bang, they get close, and the one spins. So, so that helped Briscoe, I think, win that stage 1.
Yep. And then he won the second stage as well, I believe.
The second stage. Then there came that near the end.
The big wreck?
Yeah, and hearing some people talk after Talladega, they're like, they need to get rid of that yellow line because, guys know when they shouldn't go down below the yellow line. They're smart enough not to do all that stuff and everything.
No, they're not.
That they should be. But then we go to a place like Kansas, and we're trying to go 5 wide with 2 guys down below the white line.
I was going to say more than once I saw them running 3 wide down the front stretch. The guy on the outside had his left tires on that inside line of the racing surface. So the other 2 were on the apron.
That last wreck where, Alfredo was he was straddling that white line.
Yep.
Allgaier was in the grass.
Yep.
Almost almost a full car width down below that white line. And that's what caused that whole mess.
Yep. And I want to say kudos to the safety crew and the track workers, especially those tow drivers. It's not very often I sit there and I'll watch them, do a vehicle recovery, but they did it so well and so right. Really well done, guys. They're typical. They were there before the car barely stopped. They were already on it. They were keeping the driver calm. They got it flipped over. I think 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah, it was really well done. Kudos to those guys. Kudos to Childress for building a great car, a safe car, because the way it hit, I thought it was going to be another Brad Keselowski, needle top route, when he flipped that Talladega.
Head first into that wall.
Top
into that wall.
Yeah.
The other kudos then to Chase Briscoe at the end, because we had all those restarts. And how many times did I see him start 4 rows back, 5 rows back on each restart and still get out to the front?
Yeah. Exactly. He is the guy to beat. I do believe he is, in fact, well, I don't know if it's official yet, but it looks like Briscoe will be in the 14 next year.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. Fair enough. So Chase Briscoe, I believe, is 9th win of the year.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty dominant.
You said what? It would take 5 wins to get a cup ride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because it might take 10.
Might take 10.
Yeah.
Might take 8. Who knows?
Exactly. So, that was a good, doubleheader race day. Kudos. Moffitt was in, even though Moffitt was driving, basically second-rate equipment in the Xfinity Series, he was right there in the hunt and damn near looked like he had a chance to win it.
Mm-hmm.
And Austin Hill as well. Again, that was the same team. They have a pretty damn competitive truck team. They're just dipping their toes into Xfinity. They got Scott Zipadelli as the crew chief, and he called both races. And again, he was up there too. He was mixing it up pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, there is a lot of good cars that are right there in the hunt in Xfinity. It's just unfortunate that there is only, there's those couple really good cars.
I was going to say, but how awesome is it that the regular teams, we'll call them, as opposed to the cup teams that also run programs? It's not like ARCA where they're lapping the field every other lap. The field overall is pretty damn competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when one of the front runners, once they're off a bit, they're running 15th. They're not running 6th.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
And the other thing I heard this morning in that Dale Jr. interview, and kudos to him, is that he's going to call this Martinsville race that's coming up, which is what I'm saying now. It's in I'm going to say almost 100% that he's going to be running Martinsville next year, is because he said that he doesn't like calling the Xfinity races while his guys are in the hunt for the win.
I was wondering about that. Because I was thinking that when I was watching the race, I was like, doesn't Junior usually call these from time to time? But then I thought there's that whole conflict of interest thing, so maybe,
Unlike that MW guy who wants to be in it all the time, Junior doesn't want to be that influence on his team while they're going for that championship.
Right. So. Yeah, because Junior often said, they always say, Junior, you must be, lecturing your drivers on a daily basis on how to run this track and that. He says, I don't talk to my drivers. they have my number. If they have a question, they can contact me. But
Yep.
As it should be. But
yeah, and another shout out to us. A podcast that's trying to get some people, stuff like us, on YouTube. Check out the Ask Junior show. He talks about his conversations with Jeff Burton off air. That they kind of get into it, like that about what you need to. He was talking about this week was about what you need to draft. Like, should the guy in front be dragging the brake? And Junior's like, hell no, you don't be dragging the brake if you're in front of me. But yeah, like, so it's and again, Jeff Burton saying, I'm arguing with a 9-time Talladega winner.
Yeah.
How to drive down Talladega.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. After that big wreck in the Xfinity race, I like Jeff Burton's line. He's like, well, that's one thing I've never done in a stock car. Put it on its roof.
Yeah. So
moving into Sunday, we're looking at, we're getting down to crunch time here, and it was interesting to see kind of some of the usual suspects we've been keeping an eye on that needed a decent race. Like Kurt Busch was doing quite well until he blew up, which was awesome. Not that I dislike Kurt Busch, because I'm really becoming a Kurt Busch fan, and it's more as working the booth during the truck races. But holy crap, we actually saw a motor blow.
Yeah.
Which is great. You're actually pushing it to the limits again.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, and I wanted to point out, we dropped it a few weeks ago, the merger between Richard Childress Engines, or formerly known as Earnhardt Childress Racing or Engines, or whatever the fuck they call it, with Hendrick. We have a Ganassi car blow up, and what you hear from Steve Letard is the Hendrick engine department will be curious to look at that. So that tells me they didn't merge; they folded ECR. Yeah. So,
and,
So I just want to throw that out there.
Again, that competition with a driver who can win blows up with the engine of the couple guys that ran strong.
Yeah.
But yeah. Enough about that. So, trying to remember back, stage winners in that race.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
I can't remember now.
I remember, like, Brad Keselowski was another driver doing quite well. Points racing. Basically, you can tell, because we don't talk about Brad, but he's, okay, I'll get up into fourth for the end of a stage. Stuff like that. Similar to Denny Hamlin. Actually, I think Hamlin might have won a stage.
Yeah, I think so, because then he went back. He had that issue, that tire issue, I believe. Right. Was put in the back. Truex started in the back. The tech issues before.
He just had bad luck. I think, the setup was off a touch, but then it was like he was stuck in the wrong lane on the interstate every damn time. Well, pull down, get in behind this guy, and boom, 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 gets freight trade up high. Well, it'll go up high, get freight trading down below. Like, he was just struggling.
Well, that's why there's times I feel like they are getting to where they were with Cole, and then they have something happen, and it's like 4 steps back.
Yeah.
Right? There's just that one. I don't know if it's just the.
Yeah, it seems like when they were off with Cole, they were off by a tenth or two. But when they're off now, they're off by 3 or 4 tenths. Yeah.
So
and it was Clint Boyer's final race at his home track, and he did pretty much what I thought he'd do.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Yeah, no.
Somebody needs to take out that Logano guy, because I can't stand freaking blocking. Like, when the broadcast points out, it's like he's driving at Talladega. He's all over the road. Yeah. Can we just reinforce the nose cones? Put that wraparound bumper that used to be right under that, and take him out. Yeah.
Well, it's and that's the thing people were saying. Well, and I kind of. I don't want to say that I side with Logano on this, but the way that he drove at the end is the way I kind of want my driver to drive if he's in the lead near the end, right? If you got a guy like Harvick that can't pass you, you've kind of done something good.
Yeah, and We would have done the same thing if we were behind a wheel, but I still like to bitch about it. And, it's interesting because watching as the last 10 laps unfolded, my mind was kind of wandering, right? And I'm thinking how, they always say how once Logano moved to Penske, he's been much more competitive, race winning, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because he couldn't get away at Gibbs driving the way he does. Coach would have sat him down years ago and said, give your head a shake.
Yep.
We drive clean on this team. Like for the amount of winning Kyle Busch does, he doesn't do bump and runs.
No.
Once in a while, like average amount that any other driver does. But Logano does that me first attitude, which is the Penske style.
Well,
that wouldn't have worked at Gibbs.
How many times has he got into a teammate?
Yeah.
And not by accident. But I think tough luck driver of the day, I'm going to say Alex Bowman. He finishes third.
I didn't even notice.
He finishes third, but loses 9 points somehow in the standings. Like he's lower. He's lower in the standings than he was going in. I think that part and parcel to Logano winning the race, and now there's that bigger divide,
right?
Being in and out. But yeah, so it looks like Truex, Busch, Kurt Busch are now must wins to get in.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the way it kind of happens at this point.
Yeah,
right. Because it's that last little segment. And yes, and a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Thumbs up to Joey Logano for finally wearing your damn glasses when you're driving. You wear them everywhere else except behind the wheel. And a big old thumbs down because we had to look at your cheese grater face because you wouldn't wear a mask after you won the race. No, we had to see your $1 million smile that Tony Stewart adjusted once.
With his squinty douchey eyes.
With his squinty douchey eyes. He doesn't have them quite as much because he wears glasses now, so he can see.
Yeah. But so that is our name of the show. The lunch bag letdown is him actually. We got to talk about him winning a race.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well then, yeah. So that's it for the racing. Lunch bag. Oh, not lunch bag. How did the silly season?
Yes.
Silly season stuff. So last week it came out. Briscoe is in the 14.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. So.
No, I thought I'd sent that to you, but Briscoe is in the 14. I know you go on like social media
lockdown.
Because you don't watch the race right on time. Anyway, so Briscoe is in the 14. He actually found out about that a couple weeks ago, as we heard on the Dale Jr. podcast there for this week. In true Tony Stewart fashion, he gets a call from his personal guy looks after all of his stuff saying, Tony needs you to come out to his place in Indiana on Thursday. This is a Tuesday that he gets a phone call. Need you to be out in Indiana Thursday. You and your wife need to come out. Your family's got to come out. We're going to meet with High Point, and we're going to put them on the spot with, are they going to sponsor you next year or not? Because that's what we need to know for you going into the 14. So he goes, tells his wife he need to clear everything for Thursday. She's like, they've already got their ongoing fertility stuff. So she's got fertility stuff on Thursday that she can't change. She's got like a heart thing for it that she can't change. So she can't go. So Chase and his parents go out there, and they get there like 2:00 in the afternoon. And they're going to go and they're going to have supper and everything with the High Point people. He says like he was just kind of like in a hole, like I'm just focused on trying to get this ride. He says he should have clued in when he found out that the High Point guys had already been there for 2 days at Tony's ranch that he has. They sat down for dinner. They were talking, and Tony says, so is there a chance? And Chase is now thinking, hey, all right, we're going to go and we're going to, he's going to put their feet to the fire. He's going to get them to, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? So Tony says, yeah, is there a chance that you're actually going to win in the 14 next year because you're driving it? And Chase is like, he just didn't know what to say. Like, he was like, what? And like everyone, he's like, his parents were in tears. The people from High Point, he said they were kind of almost in tears. He's like, yeah, we've known about this all along. There's like a hidden camera there, one over here, because you don't get told you're going to be getting your first cup ride every time. We got this all recorded.
Nice.
So it had already been done for like a week and a half. That was 2 weeks ago, and he's had to keep it quiet till last week.
Sure.
Right. So that was true Tony Stewart prank fashion that he found out that he
perfect
was going to be getting that ride.
Well, when you grow up being a Tony Stewart fan, you should get pranked by Tony Stewart.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. That's other silly season news that came down Monday.
Sure.
Was that Kyle Larson did get reinstated.
Right.
So he was coming back to NASCAR. Just not sure where he's going yet. There's only the one good ride that's left open. Does he take that? Or does he wait a year for a possible another contract up at Stewart Haas?
Right.
Because I believe the 10 is open after next year.
Yeah, and want to also point out how out of touch the NBC broadcast team is, because they finally floated the idea of Larson driving the 14 this past weekend.
Yeah.
So kudos, NBC team. You're really on the ball.
So Kyle has actually, he's like I said, running dirt all year. He's got 40. He just had his 43rd win on the year this past weekend on dirt.
43rd for the year. Yeah. Nice.
He has been, he does have a lot of wins on the World of Outlaw circuit, but a lot of them have been the lower, I don't want to say lower grade, but just kind of like the state fair kind of.
Sure.
Go, right?
Yeah, well, bringing him in as the draw, like the way Schrader runs at short tracks and Bobby Allison did before him and stuff like that. Yeah, that's awesome.
So he's got those 43 wins on, I believe he's probably about, I'm going to say maybe 100 or so races. I'm not sure just how many he's actually done.
Combination of 410 sprints, probably 360 sprints.
Yeah. So then looking back at his cup career that he's had up until what happened, in 223 races, he had 6 wins. Right? So he really, I don't want to say he hasn't proven himself in Cup because he's been around there, but he doesn't have the big win total.
Well, and I'll also say for half those starts in the Cup Series, he didn't have a winning car.
Yeah, I get true. Yeah, he was with Ganassi there, but
they were second rate until just a few years ago.
Yeah, he in 2017 was his best year. He had 4 wins in 2017. So
there we are.
So we'll see just what kind of equipment he's going to get into. Another thing that I sent you the list of what we could talk about today. Another thing I forgot to put in there is that the Michael Jordan Denny Hamlin car. They did file for copyright of name and number.
Okay.
The number. Without question, is the car is going to be a 23?
I was going to say, is it going to be a 23?
Yeah, it's 23. And with original name 23XI Racing or 2311 Racing, being Michael's number, being Denny's number, just put them together on the 23. So that's what's on that front. Another thing, I'm not sure if you read it this morning, broke about 9:30 this morning. Eric Jones will be in the 43 car.
I kind of figured as much because we heard like kind of a throw-off comment about Jones in the 43 during the Cup race.
Yeah, and we had talked about that previous weeks on here.
Yeah, we called that a month ago.
Yeah, and I'd heard some people talking on SiriusXM about this, Larry Mack especially, that Jones would be a good fit there, and I know that Toyota is looking for another team. Now, they did get another team with we'll now call them 23XI Racing, going to Toyota, being a Gibbs kind of
family
car.
Sure.
right? But I'm still hearing rumblings of Petty going to Toyota, leaving Chevy camp, going to Toyota, because I think Eric is still signed as a Toyota driver, unless that ended on that there. But there's still those ties of Toyota with Jones.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I believe so as well. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then also there was another car that we got settled up for the next couple of years with a couple of different drivers.
I'm trying to think if we talked about that last week. Was it the Wood brothers, right?
Yeah, they hadn't officially announced it this time last week, but it sounded like it was all but done.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, DiBenedetto will be in the car for one more year, and then Cindric will take over the 21 car after that.
Yeah.
So that tells me DiBenedetto has 1 year to audition for an extra Penske car if they decide to expand the team, or at least audition for other teams.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to give people a lot of slack if you drove for the Wood brothers. You're not winning, but as long as you're somewhat competitive, because it was the Wood brothers, they were a part-time team, whatever. But when you've been a satellite team for a major team for a decade or more, you should be just as competitive.
Yeah.
That's been proven. With Truex.
Yeah, with the 78 car. Yeah.
That was the hands down proof of that. So.
Yeah. So then Cindric will also drive a handful in a fourth Penske car next year.
Right.
Which
would probably be
kind of like to see. We'd like to know his thoughts, I guess.
I hope they bring back the 0-2
on Briscoe getting the full-time ride and him not getting a full-time ride.
Oh, Cindric was pissy about that?
No, I would just like to know.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't, because he hasn't put up the resume that Briscoe has.
Exactly, yeah. But so that's our silly season news stuff. There's been nothing about checking that now, about Larson going anywhere yet. I'm thinking that Larson, knowing the way Kyle is, this was a bit of a distraction, because he did it. He asked for reinstatement on the Friday. They gave it on the Monday. But I do not think he will say where he's actually going to go until the end of the season.
Right.
Or whenever. I'm thinking if he is going into the 88, as long as the 9 and 88 are in the hunt, they won't. But I'm thinking if they aren't in the hunt, I think they may announce something. Hendrick may announce something that final weekend just to steal headlines.
Right.
I agree. Just my opinion only.
That wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
So other stuff that just been hearing, and I've been seeing it a lot on social media. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it as much, but just media members really going on about the package stuff, the way the stuff is run, that there needs to be changes in the all the packaging, getting really into the technical side, which I've heard with people calling in to SiriusXM, and I know that I'm not the big gearhead. I kind of been listening and talking to you and kind of listening to some other people. I kind of know a bit.
Yeah,
but you get these media members that are saying stuff on social media, which then gets that layman regular fan. Oh, we need to change this because this person said this. Should the media be getting into all that technical stuff, putting it out there to the fans?
Well, the first thing I need to say, and this goes for media across the board, right? Whether they're covering sports, news, whatever it is. It's not so much them as, I don't know if they got to put it in even more bold letters. If you do an opinion piece, because any member of the media can do an opinion piece, because it's just, you're just thinking out loud. Unfortunately, we've always seen editorial pieces, opinion pieces, again, across media for all segments of life, and people take that as news. No, it's an opinion. It's not news. We see a lot of that in the political world, unfortunately. But it depends too, because if the member of the media, let's take if Steve Letarte puts out an opinion piece on technical specifications, I'm going to pay attention because Steve is a technical guy.
Yeah.
Even Dale Jr. Dale's got a bit of a mechanical background, a little bit more than just doing oil changes at the dealership. Fine. However, let's take Jeff Burton. I don't recall Jeff Burton ever turning wrenches on a car himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, but even then, from a driver's feel, maybe. And again, it depends on what it is. Like when they added the wedge adjustment inside the car. Okay, give me a driver's opinion on that. They're like, oh, it's great. I can adjust it myself. Perfect. Okay. Which you never hear about anymore after that first year they allowed that. You never hear that anymore. So I don't know if they got rid of it or.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it just seems like there is a lot of media stuff out there because, and quite frankly, they asked, the morning guys did ask Dale about that this morning. Do you know about that this morning? He said, especially because there was a lot of talk after the Kansas race about how bad of a race it was because Harvick couldn't pass Logano. That was the big thing. So I'm thinking, are all the people complaining that Harvick couldn't pass Logano, are they complaining because there was something wrong with the aero package?
Or because of who was out front?
Or are they like me and saying, I don't give a crap about the aero package. I'm just pissed that Harvick didn't pass Logano for the win.
Right.
Right? There's that line there. But it's, because Dale Jr. is like, and even Bagley and Pete Pistone they called the race and they were like, we thought it was a great race. Dale Jr. was like, I thought the race was awesome. I look on social media and all of a sudden it's like, it was a horrible race.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because again, you say, like, I go into social media isolation, and yesterday I'm flipping through Twitter and I see Jeff Gluck doing a poll. I hear a lot of people were unhappy with the way the race ended. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to see a green-white checkered. It's going to be some kind of controversy. Nope. No, that was a typical intermediate track race in all ways, shapes, or forms. So, no.
Everyone was all upset about being like no passing, no this, no that, but it's like no different.
Right, well, maybe we need to revisit the idea that every 10 years NASCAR debates, do we change the size of the tire on these cars? Do we make it wide or narrow? I say increase the size of the tires by an inch, if not 2 inches in width, at least an inch, a lot more mechanical grip, and get rid of the goddamn spoilers off the cars. Get rid of this aero shit. Oh, well, they won't, they're going to spin out in the corners. Yeah, it's called letting off.
Yeah. See, and that's the other thing they talked about this morning is being so much of there's so much of a divide with the fans of NASCAR. And you know what? You can even talk about that divide that's like, oh, right there. That little black line in between us being, you are the guy that's worked on cars. You know what's going on. My side here being the fan of a sport that's just like, hey, and
yeah, I'm sort of like the guy, I don't know how you made the chocolate cake. I just know it's good.
Yes, exactly. Right. So there's that divide that it's a fine line that, if some people say, oh, well, if this person said it, then I got to be upset with it then too.
Right.
No, you can have, do some research on it, just kind of figure out what's
exactly. Well, it's like, just simply put, your average fan loves restrictor plate pack racing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't stand it. Cannot stand it at all. But it is what it is. It's like, oh, I love these close finishes. I'd rather see a race go green the entire race and allow the whole team to win the race, because that's when we get into team racing.
Yep. Yeah.
Green flag pit stops. I'd love to see a rule. No pitting under caution unless it's for repair, or any pitting under caution, you start at the back of the pack. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be something else, but it's just, it's I think there's a fine line where fans have too much say on rules in NASCAR. You don't see any other sport. Maybe golf, because golf, you have fans that are actually calling in during the broadcast saying, I've seen that ball move like half a millimeter. That's a stroke penalty, right? That's, we're not there yet, but I'm thinking it could be given.
Yeah, it really depends on the sport. Like auto racing, whenever there's a rule change, there's this whole debate and bitch session. We see it in hockey. As soon as they make a rule change, everyone has to bitch and moan for 6 months about it without even seeing it used on ice.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the NFL probably does more rule changes every year than any other pro sport, and nobody says shit.
Yep.
So, I don't know if it's because the NFL, it's more subtle, so you don't notice it as much. It's not like they're doing anything drastic, like, oh, we're going with 3 downs.
And I think the other thing could be as well is that NASCAR does it on a week-to-week basis.
That's true. Yes. NASCAR has never been afraid to make a rule change during the season.
I would wonder if NASCAR didn't announce it to everybody and just announce it to teams. Here's what it is. Well, the other people know.
Well, and it's just dropped during, like say they're doing the parade laps and they're, and new for this week, teams have to run a minimum 20 PSI in the tires.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the people that call in, and I've heard a couple of announcers say this. They call in like, they need to take the restrictor plates off. They can't be letting these cars go, only 180 at Talladega. They need to be as fast as they can be. And it's like, if you're sitting at the track, and even on TV, can you tell when a car is going 200 or 170? No, you can't.
No.
Right? You wouldn't even know the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I even take back to myself doing that Richard Petty driving experience, which we will get to the video at 1 week here. But, I got that sheet and it said I was doing 120. Right? I got up to 120 and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel it at all in the car.
But it's all perspective, because if you were driving on a single lane road doing 120 where everything's closer, you'd be like, holy crap, I'm flying. But when you're on a big, open, and smooth track, that's another thing too. It's the smoothness. You're not feeling all those vibrations.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Because I see the 120 on that sheet.
Yeah.
And then we fly home and I get into the Ford Escape that we had, and I'm like, I would have that pegged.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, yeah, it's that whole, you really, what it comes down to is just NASCAR fans bitch about too much stuff.
Yeah, and I think actually the biggest thing, you can say when describing speed, like say you can't tell the difference, was the Xfinity race after that big wreck. When Alfredo's like, yeah, you don't realize how fast you're going until something happens, because we're used to seeing them sweep into a corner, wide shot. You can't really judge speed, but as soon as something happens, all of a sudden, bing, you're off in the wall, like in a heartbeat. You're like, oh, snap. Okay. Yeah. They are driving 170 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it just comes down to that. And they even said it too this morning, is that entertainment factor, that E word, right? They want to be entertained, but they want to be entertained their way, with that one driver winning. And if they aren't entertained in that one way, they're going to complain about everything.
Yeah. Right? This manufactured entertainment. It's the best way to call it. And that is your phantom cautions to group up the field, because then the race results in the newspaper. Oh, he only won by 100th of a second. Oh, I got to watch them. They're so competitive. No, it's manufactured competition. It's manufactured entertainment. Whereas it used to be, we're going out, we're holding a race. If you want to watch. If you don't like it, fine. There's something else to watch. Which is, really the way it should be. But then we'd be back to no playoffs. Yay. Back to actual racing, the stage bowl.
I'm gonna say the one thing about the playoffs I do like is that final race where you got 4 guys going in.
Whereas that's the worst for me.
Right? And you don't have it being, that guy's already clinched the title 3 weeks ago, or this guy just needs to run in the back and finish 33rd or higher, and he wins a championship. So
Right.
so he rides around the back all week. Like I'll race. I'll go a couple laps down and I'll be fine.
Whereas I'm the opposite, because the way I grew up, not only watching but like say competing, is you ran the whole season, so you could have a bad race here and there as long as you're competitive all season. Hell, we saw it with the last full season champion, Matt Kenseth. Didn't win a race, won the title. Why? Because he's consistent. He was always there. And that's what I like. I don't like your whole season coming down to one stupid race, because if you have a problem in that one stupid race, you can win every damn race of the season, go into that last race, have one loose lug nut, and guess what? Oh, you're not the title champion. And then people will look back in the record book and they look, oh, well, this guy must have been the best car that year because he won the title. Bullshit.
Or that piece of tape, or your rear tires put on the wrong side. Yeah. And you know what? And just the funny thing is, as you're just saying that, I've got it in my head going like the fan in me wants that we're in the final. It's winner take all. The video game guy in me, when I play my Tony Stewart's dirt racing,
right?
I'm like, give me the title as soon as you can, because then then it makes it easier on me, right? So it is that manufacturer for the fan versus what the racers actually
like you say, imagine being on that race team where you are competitive all year just to have it, a swift kick right in the pouch the last race of the year. It's I don't know, it's like that date that didn't quite turn out the way you wanted it to.
Really, Denny Hamlin or Kevin Harvick does not win one of these your final two races, it's going to happen for one of them.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess the one other thing.
I think actually we'll see it in the Xfinity Series if Briscoe doesn't win the title.
Well, yeah. That will be the one thing, because he's the one guy who's
with 9 wins.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're the best driver in that series this year.
Yeah. But kind of lastly here with the speaking of manufactured stuff, Tony Stewart came out yesterday with talking about bringing up Chase Briscoe,
right,
through the Ford family, how he likes the way Ford does it, where they've got maybe 1 or 2 drivers and kind of watching them grow to come up.
Right.
And he doesn't like the way one of the other OEMs does it. I think he's talking about Toyota.
Oh, okay.
Where they sign a bunch of young drivers, right? They kind of we're going to take all of you, sign all these great drivers that are young, and then see where they're at later on, where it's taken away from some of the other OEMs. They're kind of just like, they're going to cherry pick all these young kids. He just likes the way that Ford only picks, the few guys. And maybe that's why we see in the Xfinity Series the 2 Ford cars.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Smoke on that one, because most manufacturers are signing these drivers long before we've ever heard of them. Because I'm thinking back 20 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, opening up a Ford Performance Racing catalog, which is where you can order all your performance parts directly from the manufacturer. Because for those who don't know, every manufacturer does have a performance division. And I'm scrolling through looking at, what was I looking at? Oh, crate engines. Okay. And because I was running a mini stock at the time, we were building a mid-80s Mustang 4-cylinder to run, which has a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder. Well, guess what? At that time, Ford built a racing 2.3 liter 4-cylinder that put out approximately 3 times the amount of horsepower that the stock one did. I went, ooh, what's this? Well, next to the photo of the motor is a photo of a midget car with Ford Racing's Casey Kane in a midget car. So this is before he even moved up to sprint car racing. So, Ford, they're right down in the grassroots level, that's for sure. Chevy, I think, is pretty much the same. Technically, actually, you see it all the way down the short track level, because you still see those 50s and 60s paint schemes, I'll call it, on your local level, because you see the local Chevy dealer sponsoring a driver. Chances are he's probably a mechanic at the dealership, but there's still that relationship of some kind, some way. Even let's go back a full generation when my dad was racing, building race cars. They were drag racing in the 60s, and my dad ran an auto center. Hey, Dave Ennis,
Hey, Dave Ennis.
man. He managed an auto center, which is basically a repair shop, and they were hooked up with Ford to where they were running engine mapping through the big mainframe computer in Dearborn, Michigan, to find out engine specs. Well, who's my dad? He's just a local weekly racer. So it does filter down, especially if you know the guys involved and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think Ford, they really need to expand more. You don't need to sign everybody like Chevy and Toyota, but a token guy or two in any given series, where's your resources to pull from? That's why Penske went to Ford, because they were the only Dodge team. They had nobody to work with, to bounce ideas off of, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I guess Penske could have really just moved out to the Pinty series up here. Then they would have had a whole bunch of other Dodges to.
Because that's half the field.
But yeah, so it's, I don't know, because I guess he is saying that they had you look young Toyota drivers, you just got to look at KBM.
Yeah.
Right. But is Haley Deegan a Toyota?
I don't know if tied with Toyota, but at least Monster. Uh-oh. I think we locked up. One of us locked up. Did I lock up? Okay. Doug locked up. He says he's coming back. I just got a text. Fair enough. All right. Let me just text him back. Okay. There we go. All right. So, we'll wait on Doug to return. Yeah, manufacturers step up. There's a lot of manufacturers that are really tied into drivers all the way down to like say grassroots racing in some way, shape, or form. Manufacturers run entire series, spec series, stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know. Thoughts? Leave a comment down below if you're watching on replay. What do you think? How involved should the manufacturers be? There we are. Anytime, Doug. I'm trying to think of what the next topic is, and it's hard to bounce ideas off a topic with a co-host who isn't here. Oh, what else we got going on? Where are we going this weekend? This weekend? You headed to Martinsville this weekend? No, Texas. Another 1.5 miles. That's right. I think Texas. See, that's why I need my co-host to be able to confirm this stuff. Nope, he's still not back yet. All right. Carrying on. Texas. See, I don't even know who's running. Let's bring this up here. Actually, that won't tell me. They'll just do each individual series. That ain't going to work. Yeah. Wow, this went off the rails fast. 1.5 miles, Texas, who is losing a race next year. I think this is the second time running there this year. Wow. This is also when we do a daytime show, because I'm not usually that well versed this time of day. All right, Doug, we'll give you another couple minutes. If not, we're going to wrap this up. is I don't have anyone in the chat currently to ask any questions. Oh, there he is. Hey, you're back.
I guess no one liked me talking about that. I got no idea. Everything went black. Now I've got the other way on the phone, so.
That's okay. It went to a complete shit show. So I'm like, I'm like, what are we talking about next? I'm like, are they running Martinsville? No, I think they're running Texas. What series are running? I don't know. That's where my co-host comes in.
Yeah, so you're running Texas, I believe. I'm trying to think of how many are actually going to be running. I know Cup and Xfinity are, but yeah, I'm not sure about if all three are at Texas this weekend.
All right. Well, we're almost at the end of the show anyhow. Yeah. How about we do some picks for Texas?
Okay, yeah, because Harvick's on the pole.
Okay.
That was known, I believe, last night, but
because they take fastest lap during the previous race, isn't it? They basically use race laps of the previous week as qualifying laps.
I don't know. It's all kind of weird. How that
seems to me that's what it was, because I remember they were talking about that at Talladega, because guys were laying back to try to get huge runs because they're just putting in qualifying runs at the back of the pack, essentially.
Yeah. Now it goes your race finish plus your lap speed and your place in the standings. I think it's all a whole big thing, but yeah. So you know what?
More NASCAR malarkey.
Yeah, for as much as I want to say Truex, I'm gonna go to the dark side, and I don't know. I think Keselowski, he's had to do it at Texas before, and I think he may do it again.
You know what? I'm thinking the same thing, because he was right in there last week. Yeah. And the pressure's off Logano, so I can see them moving resources over to Keselowski for this weekend. Outside of that, maybe Harvick.
I'm thinking Harvick because you hadn't heard much from him for a while.
Yeah, and look at what he did at the end of the last week's race.
Yeah, so maybe he is coming back. Who knows? But yeah.
All I know is if the 22 car starts punting out possible rivalries for that final race, like if we see him lay the bumper to the 11, the 4, or even the 2, somebody's going to thump them in Texas.
I think so, yeah.
Because Texas, you know what? I think tempers run higher at Texas. I'm thinking that we've seen more scraps at Texas between drivers.
Someone did say, I heard them talk about, that's where Keselowski and Gordon had that fight. But I'm not sure there actually would have been a big fight if Harvick hadn't given Keselowski a little push from behind.
Right. And I believe that's where Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon had their little dust up.
Yeah. So
was that also where Boyer and Jeff Gordon?
No, that was Phoenix.
That was Phoenix.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we are.
Yeah.
So we've previewed next week. Pretty much anything else to add at this point?
That's it, because technology is not on my side right now, because I'm getting a roll down on my battery life here on my cell phone. So
fair enough. And I'll just say that second cup of coffee hit bottom, so I've got some plans in a minute or two myself. So there we are. So let's.
And next week, since we didn't get to it this week, it is your special was it Roush Fenway shirt, I believe it was.
Yeah, I'm channeling my inner Jimmy Finnig, with it unbuttoned, showing off the sweater vest underneath, as Jimmy always did. The funny part was, I was waiting for you to bring that up, and I was trying to remember, I'm like, who used to wear it like this, all unbuttoned, right? So I bring up Google, and I start typing in Mark Martin, because I was going to do a list of his crew chiefs.
Yep.
Right? So I type in Mark Martin, crew chief, and it comes up autofill. Jimmy Finnig? I'm like, yes, Jimmy Finnig. So there we are. So again, thanks everyone that watched NasCanucks, presented by Vibraprint, because I just read that along the bottom here. If you're new, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on replay, leave a comment down below. And we'll be back at our regular time next week, I do believe. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, yeah, next week back at a regular time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. And we'll be talking coverage from Texas and any other silly season news, although at this point there's not a lot. So we'll see.
Only a couple of cars left. So
there we are. So everyone have a great day. Enjoy the racing and keep it high, wide, and handsome.